This is one that is very relevant to the entire country, as it were, and that is this wave of massive data centers that are being built. And in particular, here, as it concerns Prince George's County, Maryland, where there is a very significant grassroots effort to block a very large data center coming in there, at least to make sure that if it is brought in, it's brought in under the right types of covenants that the people in the community would like to see. And we are very, very honored to be joined as we continue the show by Taylor Frazier McCollum, who is an organizer for Landover, Maryland, and from Landover, Maryland, who helped kick this whole thing off. Taylor, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it's great to have you, and it's a great story about how grassroots activism can make a difference. PG County, where you are from, a lot of people who are from the sort of DC area know it. It's the most, it's a well-known African American locale in this country. Data centers are now, the new trend that the government is pushing forward here, and I think this is something that seems to be happening a lot as it concerns these data centers. That there's a lot of Black people there, a lot of poor people in general, Native Americans. So I wonder if you think that part of why this data center is being sort of foisted on Landover, Maryland, is because of who lives there and how they are perceived by big business.
Yes, we have almost 1 million residents, close to 950,000 residents in the county. And of that, it's 60% about is African American. So it makes us feel like we're targeted all the time because way back in the day, it was the highway coming through Landover. Then we got, FedEx Field being built, which is now, I think, Northwest Stadium. And now they're trying to propose a data center in our community. So it's like, when are we going to get the right end of the stick instead of the short end? So I just feel like it's unfortunate that for us to have such a high population of African American and Latino residents that they want to push this on us when they didn't even give us opportunity to know that it was coming or hear about it other than in the news after the deal was already done. So it's very unfortunate.
And can you tell us a bit about the process that the county has used to try to get this data center installed?
Yes, so back in 2021, the county passed a bill that would fast track data centers. And a lot of the council members now are regretting that decision now that we've started to speak out, unfortunately. But that was done in 2021. And then in 2024, the Landover Mall site was approved by the planning board. So they offered a moratorium to us in Prince George's County recently, back in September. And so that means there's a 6-month pause on data center approvals. But as I've previously said in other interviews, that's a bit performative because the Landover site was already approved in 2024. So the pause doesn't affect the Landover site if it's already been approved, So that's kind of what the council's doing. They put together a qualified data center task force, but it's a very biased task force. It doesn't include representatives from many environmental agencies or organizations, and they haven't been privy to any presentations by EPA or Maryland Department of the Environment on the effects that the data center will have on our community.
I'm glad that you mentioned that people have started to speak out, because it really has been a groundswell that have seen there that on multiple levels, online, in person. We're seeing some of the images to my left here on the screen. I had the opportunity to be out there with you all in front of one of the before one of the task force meetings. Unbelievable turnout of people. So just talk about what the community reaction has been and what kind of organizing is going on.
Yes, so back in June, I started a petition on change.org to help stop the data center from being built. And then I got linked up with the Party for Socialism and Liberation around August, early September. And we decided to do an Instagram reel on the harms of data centers and how it would directly impact the Landover community. Once that reel went out, it went viral. We're currently over 300,000 views. I think like up to 350,000 views on that one Instagram reel right now. And the petition has received over 21,000 signatures at this moment. So it's taken off, like you said, like a wildfire almost. Everyone is very excited to be engaged in the process now. We've had a qualified data center task force meeting on October 25th that just passed, where the community was allowed to speak, but only by force. We had to stand up and kind of request by chanting, "Let us talk," that they gave us an opportunity to be heard, because other than that, they were just having us write our thoughts down on Post-it notes and on pieces of paper. And we knew that wasn't going to be given directly to the council. So we're hopeful that this project will be stopped because of the amount of community pressure. But then that leads us to now have to fight these fights in other places in our community, because we know that whatever AI company is behind this, which is not disclosed currently, is going to try to put it somewhere in our community. So we're going to pivot, and we're going to keep fighting these hyperscale data centers.
You know, it's so interesting because when we talk about in the past, like the coal plants, the nuclear facilities, these sorts of places being placed oftentimes in poor Black, Brown, and Native communities, oftentimes what you'd hear as the argument would be, oh, no, this is like a big money maker. It's going to help facilitate jobs, create jobs. It's going to help the local economy. So we're hearing similar arguments being made now about these data centers. So what do you say to the people who will argue that this is going to be a moneymaker for your community? It's going to help create jobs for you and your family.
Well, Landover specifically has almost 25,000 residents. Our unemployment rate is currently around 7%. If you look at how many jobs the data center is going to bring to the community, it's not going to be a drop in the bucket for that 7%, because it's going to be highly skilled jobs that are going to require you to have certain degrees or knowledge prior to that. Even if you go through a training program, when the data center is built, you still wouldn't be eligible for the job because they want you to have work experience. And if we look at the case in Memphis with XAI, right now they have Colossus One, and that is a 22-acre facility, so a quarter of the size of the Landover facility, and it's only employing permanently or long-term up to 300 people. So that may sound like, oh, that's great, 300 people got jobs, but at the end of the day, how does that look as far as it relates to the overall unemployment rate? Like, if we're not bringing in thousands of jobs to the community, then to me, it's not worth it to sell our clean air and clean water for the benefit of just a few in the community. And that's if they give those jobs to community members, because if there's no community benefit agreements or agreements made by the county that jobs have to be specifically given to residents, then those jobs are oftentimes going to be outsourced and remote jobs.
Well, Taylor, let me also ask you this, and you mentioned the different efforts that are going on. Insofar as there may be people watching in the PG County area generally, and they're thinking, wow, this sounds terrible. What can I do? How can I get involved? Is there any particular place they should go?
Yes, you can follow at No Landover Data on Instagram. You can also come out to our community meetings at Bladensburg Library. We're going to have another one this coming Saturday, November the 8th, from 2:30 to 4 p.m. And then you can also sign the change.org petition, or you can even follow PSL DC Instagram page. They have a lot of information on our fight and ways to connect to our movement there. And then we have an email list that you can sign up for. I will try to see if I can drop that in the chat. I'm not sure how to do that, but I'll try to get that to you guys so that you can maybe send that out. But if they sign the petition, then they'll get automatic updates every time we send out about a community meeting or an action that we need to take place.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll get that out to people. Don't worry, I don't know how to use any of that stuff too. But this is really amazing to see, and I think in a great story, starting from just an average everyday group of people to really taking over so many different spaces in the county and pushing back. Taylor Frazier McCollum, organizer from Landover, Maryland. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Freedom Side.
Thank you, guys. Take care.